In this video, we are going to be talking all about anger, what it is, why it comes up, and what we can do to process it in a constructive and positive way. My name is Catherine. I'm an energy healer, spiritual coach, and nurse practitioner. If you need personalized coaching or an energy healing from yours truly, then you can go to my website at catherineglassman.com, or you can email me at hello@catherineglassman.com. I kind of figured that this would be a good opportunity to make a very human video, given the fact that I personally have been needing to process some anger. And it's wild because I'm really not an angry person. And so when it comes up, I know that I need to pay attention to it because it means something. And there is also a psychic attack component to it, and I'll talk about that at the end. But when things like this happen in my personal life, I always sit down and meditate on it and try to channel information. And sometimes I just keep it for personal use just so that I can process my own issues and whatever. And then sometimes I post it here because I feel like it might be good information to share with others. I think that right now, I am not alone in feeling angry. And I think all of us are just kind of feeling anger for different reasons and at different levels. But I definitely have noticed it within some of my personal friendships and even with my coworkers, just this anger. And I think that, we're obviously in the middle of a spiritual war, right? The darker energies are going to try to get us to get into that kind of energy. And there are a lot of world events that are happening right now, and it is going to anger some people. So I really did feel like this would be a good thing to talk about. And of course, I'm just going to talk about what information I've channeled about it, and hopefully it will just resonate with you guys. So what is anger? Anger is what we would perceive as a negative emotion that will arise from feeling some sort of injustice that has been done to us or to others. And the emotion will be on a spectrum ranging from something as little as mild irritation all the way to something as bad as full-on rage to where you want to carry out an act of violence. And so anger itself isn't inherently bad, but how you behave while you are feeling this emotion or the consequences that come from being in that energy is what could potentially be bad. So why do we experience anger? Well, anger is just another emotion that signals, it comes from our human body. And it signals to our brain that there is some sort of dissonance between what our human body is getting and what our soul needs. And please keep in mind that this information is channeled through meditation. So, it's just an opinion, basically. But what I got is that anger arises from primarily a feeling of losing control. Just a loss of control within your own existence. We sometimes have this assumption that if we are good, right, if we treat others well, if we're just law-abiding citizens and good people, that good things will come to us as a result. And when those good things don't happen, or if we're good to a particular person, or we're in a friendship or a work dynamic and we are doing everything that we are supposed to be doing, but then we don't get that same treatment in return, it creates this imbalance and this feeling of injustice. This then leads us to feeling victimized, and as a result, sometimes in order to reestablish balance or reestablish the justice, anger will arise in order to fuel us into making that correction. But of course, this will come up as frustration, lashing out, which could eventually lead to like vindication and then even revenge. And now that I say it, a really good example of a movie when it comes to anger, in my opinion, is the movie called Law Abiding Citizen with Gerard Butler. I haven't seen it in a long time, but from what I remember, it is an excellent movie. And honestly, I think I need to watch it because I've been that movie has been coming up for me recently. And when movies start to pop in my head, it usually means that I need to watch it because there's a message in it for me that will relate to my own personal life. So maybe it's because I have been feeling angry. I, yeah, that's that's pretty bad because that's an extreme example. But anyway, if you're not familiar with the movie, basically Gerard Butler's character is a man whose family gets murdered. And he tries to do the right thing and he goes through all the proper channels and through the justice system, only to learn that there were some like like bad dealings with, criminals. And I don't remember if they ended up getting away with it or like something doesn't happen. And there are certain people that are higher up that aren't they themselves aren't brought to justice. And so he learns about this and he spends like the next few years carrying out like this crazy, intricate plan of revenge on the lawyers and the judges and like just the whole system in general. Of course, my human, right? My human has a warrior spirit about it, and my soul too, sure. But there's just something about like the underdog getting revenge that like I get really drawn to. And it's not that like I would never do that myself, right? It's just, it's just one of the like I'm the final girl of like the horror movies, right? And so I dig that energy on a human level. And so obviously like I really liked this movie. However, that is a very extreme example, but a very good example of where one could go if the anger is not caught in time. Because even though those are fun movies to like pretend to be in and you kind of like root for the guy, ultimately at the end of the day, and I don't remember how it ends, but revenge, I mean, there's a saying, right, that if if you go looking for revenge, be sure to dig two graves or something like that. I can't remember, but in essence, there is nothing good to come out of that for yourself, truly. You will be feeding into this ego energy, and that will only become bigger and stronger, but it's not an energy that you want to feed because it is not healing in any way. Of course, that is very relatable for pretty much everybody, right? I think all of us have experienced some sort of injustice towards ourselves, whether it be in a friendship, a romantic, relationship, a relationship with a boss, a corporation, maybe an insurance company, right? I think here in the US, they just had like a guy assassinate the CEO of United Healthcare because of potential denied insurance claims. Of course, there's a conspiracy behind that, but I'm just using that as an example. Um, you know, just these disasters that are happening, like all of us can relate to feeling like we need to balance the scales in our own way that we feel is going to be justified. But of course, there are better and healthier ways of dealing with these kinds of issues. So, what should we do when we start to feel angry? Well, the first thing is that we need to acknowledge it, right? When we are in that energy, it's very difficult, well, it can be, to identify what we're actually feeling. We just get upset, we become emotionally flooded, and then we really can't think clearly. So the first thing you want to do is just to catch it, pause, and identify whatever the thing is. Are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling irritated? Are you annoyed? Are you pissed off? Are you outraged? Are you enraged? Are you aggravated? Are you resentful? Are you feeling hatred? Are you feeling violent? I personally recommend either saying it out loud or writing it down. And the reason why is because this is the type of energy that needs to get out. It needs to get out of your body and it needs to get into the third dimension reality, right? It's a very dense energy. And of course, depending on, which end of the spectrum will determine just how, powerful and dense it is. But for the most part, just anger and frustration is pretty dense. And so just getting it out loud and out of your body, I personally think is much more helpful than just acknowledging it in your head. Of course, obviously, if you're in public or if you're at work or, you don't exactly want to upset other people by like yelling out that you're angry and you need to keep it inside. That's another thing. But even just writing it down, I truly think helps. Maybe even texting it to like a friend that you trust. Um, you know, I have friends where they know, like, if they get like a random text from me, that it's either like a reminder or just me needing to get something out or something, right? At least we have, notes for that. But, I don't know. I love my friends and they're very sweet and understanding. So once you've identified the where you are on the anger spectrum, whether you're just mildly irritated or if you're just enraged, then you can kind of have a better idea of what next steps you need to take. Of course, typically, as long as you kind of have the process in mind, you're not really going to need to like sit there and name the exact emotion that you're feeling. It's all going to kind of happen at once. But, I'm just kind of explaining what I got in my process on how I do this. And I find this to be very helpful. So, as your spiritual friend, this is just my thoughts and opinion. But, for example, irritation to me is on the lower end of the spectrum, right? And so if I'm a little irritated, what I will do is I will go have a snack, right? Is there a chance that I'm just hangry? Maybe, right? Am I maybe tired? Do I need to take a shower, right? Like there are just little things here and there that I could potentially do to correct this mild irritation that I'm feeling, okay? Then if I'm on the other end of the spectrum and I am just infuriated about a particular subject, then maybe the best thing to do would be to go to a designated rec room and take a baseball bat to an old television set, right? Of course, the point is that something needs to be done in order to expel that energy, okay? Now, I do want to mention that it is okay, and this is just my opinion from what I've channeled, that it is okay to expel that energy in the moment that you need to expel it, but you don't want to sit in that energy and remain there, because that will only, if you consciously keep at that energy, then it will actually fuel the anger even further. Okay. So if I'm enraged about something or whatever, and then like I go scream into a pillow and then I feel better, if I consciously say like, you know what, I'm going to keep screaming, and I just scream and scream and scream, by consciously doing that, I then bring that energy back and I make it stronger. But the point is that when that energy is in your body, it's kind of like it's like ping ponging like all in your body, right? It's just trapped energy and it needs to go somewhere. So then when you scream into a pillow, you get it out and it's out. But if you consciously make the decision to continue to scream, it's like you're bringing that energy back in and it's ping ponging and it's going out and then it's ping ponging and it's going out. So you just want to be mindful. You don't want to stay in there because that is you could potentially get yourself into a place of even being more enraged, and then you may find yourself on this negative thinking loop, and that may potentially lead you into doing something a little bit more drastic. And then this is kind of where, law-abiding citizen happens, right? It's it's almost like you're allowing yourself to ruminate on the anger. And we don't want to ruminate on the anger. What we want to do is we want to get that energy out so that we are in a neutral and objective space so that we can revisit the issue and find a solution. I personally like to dance and shake my body if I'm angry. And again, I don't get angry very often. And so I almost have to remember this process. And so now it's become pretty easy. So if anger arises, I just start like dancing and I literally shake my body. Okay. I shake it out of my fingertips and I get it out because I don't like it. I don't like feeling angry. I'm really not an angry person. So when it happens, it's very uncomfortable for me. But I think anything physical is good. So you can go run, you can go for a swim, you can go take a kickboxing class, anything that just gets your body moving. I have also found that if I don't want to be physical, then counting actually helps a lot. And I think this is actually really good if you are in a place where you can't do like a bunch of jumping jacks or like shake your body. Counting. And, I've had to count to 100. I take my time and I just sit there and count. And basically what this does is it just gets my mind off of the thing and focused on something entirely different and something that doesn't really require a lot of brain power. And I just can focus on that. And I just count for as long as I need to. And the idea is that, well, according to research, it takes about 20 minutes for cortisol to leave your body. And cortisol is the stress hormone, right? And you can feel, I can feel the cortisol in my body. And so I will just count or dance or do whatever it is long enough for me to feel like those levels are coming down. And of course, it's just going to feel like you calming down. But the only way that that's going to work is if you stop thinking about the thing that's making you angry and just focus on doing the thing that is attempting to calm you down. So whether you're dancing or whether you're, whatever, just do that. Don't think about the thing because you don't want to fuel it even more. We're trying to get away from the anger. And once you've calmed down and you've gotten it out of your body, then what you want to do is you want to sit there and, I always do this in meditation. I'm really not very good at thinking. Straight up, I'm just not. I guess I am. I don't know. Okay. Truth be told, I'm really good at thinking about ways to make my life easier. Like, this is going to sound so bad, but I'm really good at finding ways to be lazier rather than like better at the thing, if that makes sense, right? So I'm really good at thinking in that sense. But when it comes to just generally thinking, like, I'm really not that great. What I'm good at is using my intuition and meditating and allowing like universal consciousness to come in and to guide me. I know that this brain in here, it's really not that great. It's not, it's just not that good at problem solving. I'm telling you right now, if there is valuable information that you find in any of my videos and anything I say, it ain't coming from here. No, it's coming from there. All right. So when I really need to think about something, whether it's this issue that I'm having, I sit down and meditate and try to gain information from a universal consciousness rather than myself. So that's just me personally. If you are very good at thinking your way through a situation, then by all means. And honestly, you know, of course, there are many of us who can just use intuition and our own critical thinking together and form a solution. So whatever your process is, by all means, do it. But this is the part where you want to identify what is making you angry. Now, of course, initially, you're probably going to think about a person or a job or an event or something. But what you really want to try to find is the core issue or the core, sometimes behavior, that is what is producing this anger within you. So for example, if, someone is being rude to me, like at work or something, am I angry with the person or am I angry with the behavior? Am I angry with the fact that I allowed this person to behave or speak to me in a certain way, right? There's a lot of different and it could be all of it, but you want to think about all of it. And, keep in mind that although sometimes it will be a person, it will more often be like a behavior or an energy that the person is producing and your reaction to it, that is actually the core issue. That will often come in the form of karma, because if you don't handle that particular issue right then and there, then that issue may arise in another person in a different situation, but the core energy is the same. So this is why it's important for me personally anyway, to like really meditate on it so I can really identify what the actual problem is. And I find that a lot of times when there is, anger that I experience, it usually is from a feeling of feeling disempowered. Or it's just, I'm like not feeling in control of my own life. So then once you have identified the core issue, you have to make a choice. And your choices are either accept it, change it, or remove yourself from it entirely. This can be a hard decision to make, especially when it involves another person that you care about, or, an organization or a situation that you really care about, and you probably do care about it, or else you wouldn't be that angry, right? But ultimately, we can't control other people. We can't control, a lot of situations that are outside of ourselves. And so we have to take the power back and decide if it's something that we're going to accept, if it's something that we need to change, or if we just need to leave the situation entirely. Sometimes you have to do all three. And you may need to accept something or accept a behavior. You may need to change the dynamic somehow or change the way you react to it. Maybe there is something within you that you need to look at because you are ultimately the one that is being triggered. And then sometimes you need to leave a certain aspect of that particular situation by creating better boundaries. But regardless, the ultimate goal is to just do something, because if you allow yourself to just stay in that energy and then just continue to be frustrated and angry, and you just bottle it up inside and don't do anything about it, you eventually become resentful, and it's just not good for like your human body to have that energy stored within it. And then, of course, if you don't do anything about it, then you ultimately send your solar plexus chakra, which, by the way, that is the chakra that will often be out of balance when it comes to feeling anger. And of course, the solar plexus, the liver is around that area, the spleen is around that area. Like there are potential, oh, and that makes a lot of sense because if you're angry, you could potentially be drinking alcohol, which then destroys your liver. Anyway, just made that connection. At the end of the day, the anger is just showing us where we are feeling disempowered and where we are feeling out of control. And it's giving us an opportunity to do something about it. And when we do something about it in a positive and constructive way, we teach ourselves that we are actually very much in control of our own existence and our own reality. That we are able to make, maybe they're incremental shifts, but they form a bigger picture ultimately. And we don't have to feel like we are the victim of our own lives. We want to allow the anger to just show us where the work needs to be done, but then we do the work in a more positive and uplifting way. And side note, I am just realizing that I don't think I've made a video on psychic attacks, which that needs to change because that is very important information. But wow, I experienced a psychic attack recently, and it stemmed from anger. I remember that I was feeling frustrated about a certain situation, and I could feel like anger building up inside of me, right? Now, because I had already been feeling frustrated, the anger that I was feeling, I felt was my own, and I thought it was my own. But to the degree that this anger was turning into, it didn't feel right because the situation that I was thinking of, it didn't call for that kind of anger. And so because I made that conscious connection, I just knew that there wasn't something right. But there was a part of me that felt like, well, maybe this is my anger. So, whatever. I calmed down and, did some meditating and things like that. And I saged myself, but that was it. I just saged myself when I got home. That night, that night, I had a very vivid dream. And it was the most disturbing dream that I think I've had yet so far. I'm going to share it with you, but maybe I won't actually. I will tell you the dream in my psychic attack video, but it was pretty gruesome, very vivid, and it was definitely not something that my own consciousness would ever come up with. So when I woke up at exactly 3 a.m. and I remembered that I actually saw the number 666 like the day prior. Now, if you know anything about angel numbers, you would know that the number 666 actually doesn't mean anything bad, okay? What it means is that your guides are trying to grab your attention about something that needs to be looked at. And it's usually something of a Luciferian type of energy, something that is of like seduction or money. And in my case, it was anger, right? Feeding into this anger energy. And so when I woke up at 3 a.m. and I made all those connections, I was like, okay, I am under attack right now. So I got up and I started doing Reiki on myself started praying, and I saged my entire house. And once I kind of meditated and like visualized like white light going through my house, at some point I felt better and I went to sleep. And then I felt like that energy go away. All right. So, just a side note, you know, sometimes the anger that we experience is coming from us, but that is a very good reason to try to diffuse the anger, because if you don't, there are other energies out there that can kind of ride on that energy that you are experiencing and fuel it even further without you even realizing that that's what's happening. And so, because I have had these experiences before, because I know what these numbers mean and what waking up at 3 a.m. means and what these dreams mean, I knew that there was some sort of attachment that was on me that I needed to get rid of. So just be careful. Anger can fuel that Luciferian energy. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful. That's the whole point of making these videos, right? Is for it to help you guys. It definitely helps me. I don't feel like this information belongs to me anyway. I think it's just universal information, and that probably isn't groundbreaking at all, honestly. I'm sure that there are plenty of videos out there that, not only say the same thing, but probably say it a little bit more clearly and, better. But regardless, I think it's going to find whoever it needs to find, and I hope it helps. But I hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.